Good afternoon. How are you? Well, it's a beautiful day. You can feel the wind. Thomas Jefferson says it's 12 miles an hour, but it feels really good because the temperature, I think, is 55 and the sun is out, and that helps. But the humidity is 26%, so got to keep that in mind. Every day there's an onslaught. It's calculated to cause us angst that we can have the center hold. You all know the poem. And Foreign Affairs, which I try to keep up with, had a quote that the center is not holding on the cover of the current magazine, the March to April magazine. So there is this concern. And how do we deal with it? And we see the courts have been fighting it. And now we have more members of Congress going out on the stump and going to Republican districts. And here where I am in Northern Virginia, they're having a town hall, resist town hall, which is contemplated, I think, to be helpful rather than to expect to respond to accusations against those sponsoring it. I'm on the dais, but I'm an invite. I'm not running it. I'll do whatever is helpful to the cause. And I've talked to some people on the Hill about other ways I might be helpful, not necessarily on the Hill itself. And after all, I have my clients. I have to deal with them. When I worked on the first impeachment on the Hill, which is we were defending against Bill Clinton's impeachment, and our theory was that if you assume everything they said was true, it wasn't an impeachable offense. Could be the cause for divorce, could be the cause for civil litigation, but we didn't get rid of presidents for that basis. And in that time, I read more intensely than I had before then what the Federalist Papers said, but also what the Anti-Federalist Papers said, like Patrick Henry, who mourned the fact and shouted and screamed about the fact that the Constitution didn't have a Bill of Rights. Now, Madison, who kept good notes, he wrote in Federalist, I think it was number 51, that if men were angels, no government would be necessary. And if angels were the government, neither external or internal controls on government would be necessary. But that's why they set in these checks and balances on three branches of government. That's why they had impeachment. That's why they had censure. That's why they had a lot of the things they had. And the legislation that the Congress passes does limit the authority of the president. And whether it's constitutional or not is looked at by the judiciary. And that was the balance they came up with. Now, John Adams didn't get the structure right in the beginning. And I suppose that had more to do with Hamilton being the artisan of the original schema. And Washington trusted him a great deal. And so while it was working great. But Alexander Hamilton, he believed in a monarchical government, although he was careful how he said it, because everybody was close to remembering the king that they did not want to have in their new nation or country. And from that period to this, secrets declared to be secret by the government is a way that the government has avoided worse than embarrassment, being found out, really. And so the latest example of this proposition is the case of the deportees. What the judge is trying to do in that case is trying to determine if his order was disobeyed and then what he will do with that information. And it must be bad because the government doesn't want to turn over the details, and the judge has been leaning into them. And I think they have a couple more days to satisfy or disappoint him, at which time he'll act or not. But what they're doing is they're claiming state secrets for the questions he's asking, which are basically, where were the planes when I said they should go home? They shouldn't fly at all. and it should be paralyzed here. And it doesn't matter to me that it was over international waters, since the defendants are here and they were instructed not to let that happen, and they had full control over what was happening. So Trump and company want to hide the details of the deportations, treated as a state secret. And in the past, we have had mixed views of citizens who uncover these state secrets. And, the most sensational one probably is the Pentagon Papers, which revealed what was being badly done in the Vietnam War. And so things are decided to be secret when they seem to hurt the government in office. And so that's why fairly we're a little concerned about what is secret. And we have a good line on that when we say to ourselves, I'm a little concerned about what Trump is doing, that all of a sudden, having gone into court voluntarily, now they try to make everything disappear. You can't look at this, you can't know that, you have to go to separate rooms to hear it. And many years ago, I was running an investigation on the Senate Labor Committee, appointed, yes, by Orrin Hatch. And the minority chair at that time was Ted Kennedy. And it was very interesting how when we asked the Justice Department and the Reagan presidency for information, a representative came up to the Hill from the Department of Justice and said they'd let us know what happened, but we couldn't say it to anybody else. We couldn't write it in any reports or anything. And Orrin Hatch asked me what I thought of that. And I said we weren't just personally curious. We wanted this information for public consumption, wherever it took us. And what it meant for when you appoint somebody to a cabinet position, can we rely on the background investigation that's conducted? And in that case, it was Raymond, I don't know any mobsters, Donovan. And he was claiming he had no association with organized crime figures. And in fact, there were tape recordings that he did, and the FBI withheld consciously that information from the Senate, so they didn't inform their discretion. So that's just one of many examples of how the government uses secrets to conceal the government's own misconduct. It's sort of like the Fifth Amendment for governments, although government consists of individuals with power who are abusing it. In this case, the deportees out of the country. And by now you probably know the simple analysis of that case, which is that the statute that authorizes the president to do anything like he proposes to do with the current migrant deportees comes against the background of prior uses of this terrible statute in the War of 1812, World War I, and World War II. World War II involving internees. So there has to be a war. There's no war. And the person or persons who come to America have to be doing it for a government against us. And Venezuela is not doing that. And there are other conditions and so forth. So it's clear that since Trump doesn't read, he thinks nobody else does either, I suppose. We also have another incident. The FTC today suffered the firings of the two remaining Democrats, Rebecca Slaughter and Alvaro Bedaya. And this loss means that the FTC, Federal Trade Commission, is sacrificed in terms of its independence and integrity. It's lost legitimacy. Now, we talked about, well, how we can and can't trust officials. And one of there are several arguments that are used. They're not based in law or the Constitution. There is the notion that the Federalists hold for Trump, that he's a unitary executive, which means he can do anything himself. That's basically what it means, which follows the immunity decision by the Gang of Six on the Supreme Court that somewhat protect Trump. And nobody, in my opinion, pushed back the way they should have and made concessions that they should not have made. But there it is. Now, what we have to do is we have to continue the things that are working. We have to help the protest in court or in correspondence. And I've had some opportunity, because of being a former federal prosecutor, to join hundreds of others who joined in agreement with the resignation of the U.S. Attorney of the Southern District of New York, because she said she would not dismiss the case against the mayor of New York. These things, whatever opportunity you have to protest and state what's right, a couple of things happen. One is you do persuade even the Republicans, who then have something else to fear besides Elon Musk paying for a primary against them, threatening their phony baloney jobs. But you also show to people there is an exit strategy. That does not mean we're going to be victims. But we don't know how long it's going to take to fight this. Now, Trump would lull us into saying, just hang on, it'll be okay. No, it will be worse. What he wants us to hold on to is when he can get enough force, he can do whatever he pleases. We, on the other hand, want to establish, as still presently viable and necessary, the principles of our republic and its democratic underpinnings, namely the franchise. And we keep hearing, no matter what the cause is, the voters gave the authority to Trump to do what he's doing. Well, that's just not the way our society works. For one thing, we have no idea what the vote means. When you're lying to people and they're voting, what are they voting for? They're voting for something that this man isn't going to do. You know, and one of the most obvious ones was, oh, I'll take care of your shopping. We'll get it back down when I get in office. First day it'll happen, or the second or third, you know. And then when he won, he said, well, I don't really know that I can do anything about that. So there should never be a question about the reliability of what Trump says. Trump always lies. In the short term, in the long term, big lies, little lies, lies that don't matter. So when he says something that's a concession against his personal interests, that may be true. So you have to look for those things. But otherwise, you can't be attracted by the silly sirens of unfortunately misleading slanders and lies for Trump to get what he wants at our expense. So that's what I got for this stroll. And I can see green more, and you probably can see it too. Let's see if you... some of it you can see. So I say goodbye from our cathedral of trees until tomorrow. All the best. Bye-bye.